Hey, welcome to this week's episode of State of Real Estate. I'm John Chrismo, and this show is brought to you by the Tampa School of Real Estate. If you're interested in starting or enhancing your real estate career, give us a call. Phone number is 813-928-0106. You can also visit us online at tampaschoolofrealestate.com or 813-928-0106. So today we're talking about putting the pieces together. Now, what pieces? Because that's a very obscure kind of topic. Yeah, we did that on purpose to get your guys' attention. Because whenever we talk about higher level type of thinking, things that you need to do when it's something to elevate your business, where it's the more simple concepts, a lot of people like to write stuff like this off and say, oh, I already know that. I can't tell you how many things that I constantly have to reinforce in myself that I already know. There's a lot of things that I already know. And if I hear those things again, I'm just like, okay, yeah, I know that, but am I actually going forward with that? So that's kind of what the topic we're talking about today it focuses on. We're focusing on putting together these pieces of solving problems. You know, so many people get deterred by problems. They want to be stress-free. They don't want to have any problems. They don't want to deal with other people's problems. They don't like problems. Who likes problems? I love problems. I do a whole show solving math problems out of all things. On Wednesdays, Ask the Instructor, we do that show with solving the math problems and whatnot. But I want people to bring me their problems. Why do I want people to bring me their problems? I'd like the challenge, first of all. But number two, and this is the real important reason, and this is what keeps our world spinning, is people will pay you for a solution to their problem. I hate hearing people complain about problems. You could talk about problems all day long, but what are you doing to solve these problems? Because if you're solving the problems, that's where you have an opportunity to contribute back to the world. Now, we want to make this a little bit more real, a little bit more relatable. You guys see the green I got on today? It's St. Patrick's Day here. St. Patrick's Day, got the green socks on in case you guys can't see them there too. Got all the green on today. So I just happy St. Patrick's Day as you guys out there watching. Anyway, so tying this into real estate. Now, and what problems can we solve in real estate? Or when somebody brings us a problem in real estate, how do we tackle that? How do we turn this into something that we could end up making money out of this? And so many agents, so many realtors, so many brokers, so many, not even just in the real estate industry, in every business industry, when there's something, an industry climate change, when the industry changes somehow, maybe technology starts to have a bigger role in it, maybe you're not able to make as much money as you used to be able to. You could complain about these problems all you want, but that's not really solving the problem. So what we want to talk about today is how we could utilize people's problems and apply some sort of solution to that. Now, for all you guys tuning in, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, I've got both the chats loaded up here. If you guys have some sort of problem that you're maybe struggling with, hey, I'd love to help you out that with here on the show. Maybe it's something about you're not getting enough leads, or maybe you're getting enough leads but you're not getting enough appointments. Maybe you're getting enough appointments but you're not getting enough contracts, or maybe you just don't know what's going on, and that's the problem. So send us in your problems because we could solve them together here on the stream. Put them in the comments. I'm going to be watching those, and I'd love some real-world practical examples to find out what you guys really need some help with as it relates to kind of solving these problems and putting the pieces together. So what I want to focus on is first identifying what the problem is. So, and you'd think most people are able to identify the problem when they start complaining about it, when they start acting like this is something I don't want to have to deal with. And yes, they're subconsciously identifying that that's a problem, but that's all they're labeling it as just a problem. So let's take the issue of, let's say you're not getting enough leads. So let's deal with that problem, because that's a major problem. I don't care if you're brand new to real estate. It's especially a problem when you're brand new to real estate, but it could also be a problem as you're further along in real estate, as you have built up a larger career, and then maybe something's just happening where your pipeline's kind of dropping off. So that could be another thing that's really kind of disrupting your business, where you're really kind of lacking in that. So obtaining enough leads is a huge problem that you need to be able to solve. And there's a lot of solutions out there for this problem of real estate leads. I bet if you have a real estate license, I don't care where you are, Florida, anywhere in the country, you've probably gotten calls from Zillow before, probably from Realtor.com before, probably from God knows who that's trying to sell you Google advertising, and all these different people. And these are ways to generate leads. Now, there's some details with that you have to make sure that you're doing it right in order to actually turn that into a solution, but they have seen that problem. They see the problem, okay, people don't have leads. People that are in real estate, they're eager to sell real estate. They pass the licensing exam. They want to get out there and try to build a business, but they don't have any people. They don't know people that want a business. So that's really the problem. Notice how Zillow is kind of specific, and any of these companies selling advertising, they're specific in their problem. It's not just that you don't have leads. You have to identify the problem further and break this down into its core elements. It's not just that you don't have leads. Why do you not have leads? That's the real problem. The not having leads, that's not really a problem. That's a complaint. That's a complaint when you don't have leads. There's a difference between a problem and a complaint. A complaint is, oh, I don't have leads. Okay, well, why don't you have leads? Are you not doing prospecting? Are you not paying for advertising? Are you not marketing? Are you not talking to people? You got to be doing at least one of these things, if not a combination of multiple ones, to kind of generate the actual leads. So what you have to do is you need to tackle these things and break them down and identify them into their core elements. It's not just knowing what the complaint is. Anybody can know what a complaint is. You have to dive in more detail and understand the problems driving that complaint, creating the complaint. Because not having leads, that's just a complaint. That's not a problem. Your problem is that you're not prospecting, that you're not holding open houses, that you're not going door knocking, that you're not paying for advertising, that you don't have a broker that's giving you leads, that you're in some sort of situation, whatever it is that you're doing, you don't have any source of leads. Or your sources of leads that you did say are going to be your sources of leads, you're not following through on the activities to generate those leads. So you have to know the difference between a complaint and a problem, because just not having leads or not having people call you back, those are complaints. Let's talk about the one of not having people calling you back, because that's a big thing. Let's say you do actually go out and hold an open house, because that's a great way, and this is something I recommend to any new agents or seasoned agents to get out there and generate some business very easily. You're probably not going to sell the house you're holding open, but you're going to meet 10, maybe 15 or 20 people if you have a really good busy open house. But probably at least 5 to 10 people you're going to meet in the course of a few hours that are potentially interested in buying or selling a house. Again, another complaint comes in with this process. You got to know the difference between a complaint and a problem. Because the complaint that comes in with open houses are, these are just nosy neighbors coming in here. I did an open house, and all I got was a bunch of nosy neighbors walking in, looking at the property, and all they wanted to talk about. You might have heard people complain to you before about stuff like this. And they're not telling you a problem, they're complaining about their problem, which is their inability to convert that looky-loo, that person into a seller, into a prospect. Now, not everyone's going to do business with you today. Not everyone's going to do business with you today. This is a people and communication-based industry, a business that we're dealing with here. And these people coming in, they're probably not going to want to buy a house today. They're probably not going to want to buy a house tomorrow. They might not want to buy a house for a couple of years. Should you abandon them? Absolutely not. The problem isn't that it's just people that aren't interested in doing anything today. The problem is, again, we're identifying the problem, not getting hung up on the complaint, because the complaint is, I'm holding an open house and there's not enough people coming in that are actually serious. That's not the problem. The problem isn't the other people's issues. What you have to do is you have to direct all the problems back onto yourself, because there's no way you could change who's walking into the open house. Those people walking into the open house, they may want to buy. You might have that rare chance where you're hitting the lotto, where lightning's striking, where they're like, hey, I'm ready to get out there and buy a house. I'm actually seriously looking for a house. That's why I'm at an open house. There's a lot of people that might just say, oh, look, it's an open house. We're thinking of buying in a couple of years. Let's go check it out and see what it's kind of like. See what the new homes have. That's why open houses started. They were showing off the concept of electricity. Dating back to the first open houses on record where houses were held open as an open house to try to get them to sell, way before the days of the internet, right at the time when electricity was just starting to become mainstream, where people would have it in their house. People would just walk in there to see the electricity, the marvel that is electricity. Now, do you think the brokers back holding the open houses back when electricity first started coming out, you think they went back and came around as like, oh, this stupid electricity, I know it brings all kinds of people in here, but you know, God, all these people, all they want to do is just see the light bulb. They don't even care about buying the house. They just came in here to see the light bulb. Yeah, that's the bait. That's what attracts people in. We did the same thing for you guys tuning in today in the copy for this. If you read the copy of this, it's how to put puzzle pieces together. What am I talking about with how to put puzzle pieces together? We're talking about how to solve problems, how to capitalize on your business. So you could take something that's almost some sort of bait and lure people in. So back when open houses first started, electricity was the big thing. People would see, oh my God, this house has electricity in it. I need to go out there and see it. Honey, get the horse together. You know, there were no cars this time. I think they actually did have the cars at this point, but most people didn't have cars. There was no Model T yet. They'd get the horse, they'd ride out there on their horse to the property, and then go marvel at the light bulb in the property. And you know, I'm sure there were brokers at the time that say just like what brokers will do today, just they're saying a different story. That's a different complaint today, but it's ultimately the same complaint. Oh, they just came out here to look at the electricity. Oh, they just came out here to get some free food. Do not think that, then this is a big thing about the open house, and I'm such a proponent of doing open houses. They're not only good for you to help generate your business, it's good for the property owner to help to get their property sold. It's very unlikely that the property will sell as a result of an open house, but if you're continuously doing open houses, you're doing a great service for your client because you're getting that property exposure that it wouldn't get if there wasn't an open house being done. So regardless of the statistics, and don't complain about the statistics, because that's not the problem. It's not the problem that's the statistics. That is what it is. There's no way you could change that statistic unless you're doing more open houses. You can influence your particular scenario, your environment, and what it is that you're doing to kind of help push your business forward. And when you keep that in mind, that's, again, you're making that shift of not controlling other people. You could complain about other people all day long, but you're not going to end up solving anything. What you have to do is flip that complaint into a problem that you have. So the people coming into an open house, they're coming into an open house to get the free food because they're the nosy neighbors, whatever it may be. Hey, so be it. That's what you put the food out there for. You don't put up a sign that says, hey, serious buyers only can have a cookie. Serious buyers only are allowed a juice box. Serious buyer. Now, if you're really serious, I might even interest you in some sort of sandwich. But I need to find out if you really want to buy a property first, because if you don't want to buy a property, don't you touch my sandwiches. Come on, don't be ridiculous now. You can see how ridiculous that sounds, but that's what goes through people's heads when they think that they're putting out this food, and that food alone is going to be what's going to turn your open house into the open house that generates you so many leads. That's just the bait. You're out there, it's literally like you're fishing. You're putting food out there to try to lure in some prospects. Just like you're fishing, you cast a line out, but if you just put a hook out there, you're probably not going to catch anything. I've never been too good at fishing, but whenever I did catch anything, it wasn't with just a hook. I had to put some food on the hook for the fishes to come in there and take it. That's what these people are. Maybe they find out there's food. Maybe it's a nice, beautiful house that they want to see. And I guarantee you, at least 99% of the people are going to say they're just looking. Everyone's just looking until they're writing a contract. Even if they're contemplating purchasing a property, they're just looking until they're actually purchasing the property. So people are going to come in there, oh yeah, we're just looking around, we're in the neighborhood, oh, I'm the neighbor, I just wanted to come check this out, oh, well, come on in. And so many people adjust their attitude right there. You don't realize you haven't identified their problem yet, why they're coming in here. And we're going to get into this later in the show, but also kind of identifying what it is that their problem is and kind of digging deeper down into this. So they're coming in here to look at this house, and they say, oh, you got food, and there's two ways you could go. And this is the attitude is everything type of thing. You could go, oh, man, they're some nosy neighbor. I'm going to go ahead and eat my cookies, and you're having a conversation in your head. You shouldn't be having a conversation in your head with yourself, complaining about the person eating your cookies and your sandwiches and your drinks. You need to get over there and start talking to them. Talk to them. This is a people-person communication business. So you want to get over there and talk to them. And you want to establish a relationship with them. Your goal is essentially to come off as a friend to them, to somebody that they'd like to talk to, as a nice person, and also maybe give a chance to kind of showcase some of your real estate knowledge. They came, unless they're literally just over there to eat the food and there's no other reason, and even then, that's where you really just kind of have to be a friend with them, and maybe you could kind of strike up a conversation and then segue into this. But if they're at least looking at the property, this is where you show off your skills, your abilities, your talents, and you're over there kind of practicing showing the property, practicing talking with clients, practicing maybe overcoming some objectives, or really the key thing you need to do is identify their problems. That's something that's huge when you're holding an open house, is identifying the problems that they're coming in there with. And when we come back after this next break, we're going to talk about how to identify problems of people coming in, because this whole episode is about identifying problems so we could offer a solution. If we could offer a solution, we can make money. Don't go anywhere. You're watching State of Real Estate. When you look back on your real estate career, you'll remember the moment you decided to begin this journey. The moment when you finally decided it was time for change. The moment when you decided it was time to take charge. The moment that changed the direction of your life forever. Now is that moment. Need help preparing for your exam? We've got you covered. Join us for a structured weekend review class where we'll cover the topics you need to know to pass your class and state exams. Class sizes are limited, so reserve your seat now by calling 813-928-0106 or registering online at tampaschoolofrealestate.com. Have you been thinking about starting a real estate career but are struggling to find the time to go back to school? Allow us to introduce our revolutionary online course platform. At the Tampa School of Real Estate, we have used our years of education experience and student feedback to bring you the finest and best online course. Visit tampaschoolofrealestate.com. That's tampaschoolofrealestate.com, or call us at 813-928-0106. That's 813-928-0106 to learn more and register for our online course today. After the show, be sure to visit tampaschoolofrealestate.com. Again, that's tampaschoolofrealestate.com, where you'll find all the information you need to start your career in real estate. Also, be sure to check out our Success Center, where you'll find helpful tips for building a successful real estate career. Hey, if you liked the show today, be sure to hit like and subscribe and post your comments. Thanks so much for watching. Hey, welcome back to this week's episode of State of Real Estate. Every Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time, we come to you to help you mastermind and grow your real estate business. This is where we're going above and beyond the information to get your license, because you learn a lot in there, but real estate is all about the knowledge that you have. The more knowledge that you have and the better you apply that knowledge, the more successful you can be. And that's what we do every Friday. Not Wednesday, every Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time. We get together to share that knowledge with you. Give a call out to you guys. So today we're talking about solving problems, and we're about to talk about when we have somebody coming into an open house, or whenever we're dealing with somebody. It doesn't necessarily have to be an open house, and how to identify the problems they have so you could offer a solution. And when you can offer a solution to somebody's problem in the free market that we live in, they're going to be willing to exchange dollars. They're going to be willing to exchange value for your value. And that's where you're able to make money. When you have value that's worth money, you could take that money in. So that's what we're going to be talking about, identifying their problems. And if you guys have a problem in your real estate business, maybe you have a problem with a client, I want to hear from you guys. Put it in the comments, put it in the YouTube chat, the Facebook comments, whatever it is. Put that in there because I do want to hear what problems you have and how we could maybe kind of come up with some solutions. We're going to be doing a little bit of a segment going through some of those. So stay tuned in that and put your problems that you have that you're trying to struggle to find a solution for. But now let's say that we have somebody that we're trying to identify their problems. We're trying to identify their problems. Let's go back to the example we're using here. We have somebody that's coming into an open house. Somebody's in the open house, and this is really a crucial key thing that you need to learn. That's why I'm such a big advocate of doing open houses, because it's such a learning experience, not only in showing a property, but getting to know people and getting to talk to people and learning how to turn these people that you're meeting into potential prospects. And what you need to do is identify what it is that they like about the property. What is it that they don't like about the property? What is it that they're and this isn't a question that you probably don't want to get into unless you know that they're really seriously looking and they're actually ready to act. They want somebody to help them look. Because if you ask this question, and this is the way a lot of agents ask the question, what are you looking for in a property? So at this point now, you're kind of prying into their personal life. You're kind of peeking into their information. And if they're serious about buying, they're going to give you information. But if you ask this question and they're not giving you a response, they might just say, "Oh, we're just really looking." That's going to really kind of shut them down and pull them back. Now you didn't blow a deal, you didn't blow a prospect right then and there, but you want to maybe ask these questions. What do you like about this property? What do you think about this kitchen? What do you think about the pool here? Do you like the size of this house? And that's a bad question. Why is that a bad question? Do you like the size of the house? Because that's a yes or no question. You do not want to ask yes or no questions. You want to ask open-ended questions. So you don't want to ask, do you like the size of the house? What do you think about the size of the house? Now they have to think a little bit in their response. If you want to say yes, you could say yes like that. If you want to say no, you could say no like that. Instantly. Your mind doesn't have to think for yes or no. Yes or no, it's one or the other. A lot of people just kind of default to no. Or they might just default to yes because they don't want to. Usually when they say no to something, they maybe have to have an explanation around it. If you ask, "Oh, do you like the size?" "Yeah, we like the size." Okay. What information did you learn other than that they like the size? Do they like the size because it's above 2,000 square feet? Do they like the size because it's under 2,500 square feet? Do they like the size because it feels very open? Do they like the size because it feels closed in? There's so many things that you could infer a lot better if you ask the question of, what do you think about the size? And this seems like just such a simple concept here, saying, what do you think about the size rather than do you like the size? But now when you ask them, what do you think about the size? They might say, "Oh, it's nice." "Oh, well, what's nice about it?" Because they still might try to come up with these simple answers. They don't want to think. They're just kind of relax and whatnot. But if you want to identify their problems, you have to have them think. They might not even identify their problems yet. So it's your job kind of as a counselor to them, basically, as a therapist, really, if you want to think of it that way, that you're kind of counseling them and you're trying to get this information. You're kind of having them do some soul searching to really figure out what it is that they need and what it is that they're looking for in size. So, and then you could maybe kind of follow up with these questions further and further. You keep following up to these questions till you start to peel back the layers and they really start to open up to you. Once they start to open up to you, you could ask a simple question and they might start to give you a little bit longer response. Who knows? They might be a chatty person and they might just have a 10-minute response already ready to go on the first question it is that you ask, even if it's a yes or no question. But they'll probably start talking about things that aren't going to be the information that identifies the problems that you want. So you got to dig down and dig deep into this stuff. You want to ask open-ended questions and follow up with more open-ended questions. What do you think about the size? "Oh, it's a nice size." Well, what do you like? Is it the size of the bedrooms, the size of the living rooms? What size is it that you like about this property? And if they start to say, "Hey, why are you asking me so many questions?" It's like, "Hey, look, I'm just trying to get some feedback from my seller on this property. So you guys are really helping me out. If you could answer that." You might might even want to preface it with that, like, hey, look, I'm trying to get some feedback from my seller on this property. I want to know what you guys think. You guys seem like smart people. Have you looked at some houses recently? No? Okay, good, you're fresh. Oh, have you looked at some houses recently? Okay, good, yeah, so you have other things to compare it to in mind. So you're kind of having this conversation with them to kind of open them up and understand who it is that they are. And through this course of things, if you're doing this right and you're asking enough questions, you're going to be able to get to the point where you kind of understand where they're at in the home buying process and then what it is that you need to do to further solve their problems. Once you've identified the problems it is that they have, and if they really do have a problem, they might even know they have a problem, but they might say something along the lines of, and they might give you a complaint about their house. They might say, oh, you know, our house, it's not as roomy as this one. It's not as open. The ceilings aren't as high. They're telling you all kinds of things it is that they like that they're looking for in a property. And even though the National Association of Realtors statistics says that people on average buy a house every 5 to 7 years, I was thinking about this morning. I'm like, but there's nothing saying you can't influence those statistics. You could change statistics. You can't change the overall statistics. That 5 to 7 years, unless everybody gets on the bandwagon with this, isn't going to change. But the people that you're dealing with, maybe you show them a house that they really like. And if you're finding them a house that's within their budget that they really like and they want it so much that they're willing to pick up their lives and move it to this house because it's so much better, and you could offer that solution to them, that's huge. I can't tell you how many people that I've dealt with that have, you know, they're like, oh, you know, we're kind of, there's a whole thing on Zillow for that where you see, make me move. Make me move. Those are people that are thinking about it. They're thinking about moving. They think that they'd want a nicer house. That's the key thing, is trying to get something that solves their problems. It might not even be a nicer house. Maybe the house they have is too big. You got a lot of the baby boomers, the empty nesters, the people that had a big family and they had this big house where they're raising the children in, and all of a sudden they don't need it. They're empty nesters. So you see a lot of downsizing in that space. And you're going to see that for at least the next 15 years, a big influx of that going on in the market. People not necessarily wanting to get to a larger property, people wanting to get into a smaller property with lower down payments that's not as grand or large. Maybe they're looking for a better location. And they might want to do that, but maybe it's just not convenient for them. Maybe they just haven't thought about it. And maybe they're obviously thinking about it if they're coming into the open house. So I don't want to hear complaints about people saying, hey, there's just sellers coming in here. Hey, there's just coming in here to eat my food. Stop complaining about this stuff. Whenever there's a complaint, and you'll catch yourself complaining, and I sound like I'm being hard on you guys right now, but you got to catch yourself when you do complaints, when you make a complaint. You got to listen to what it is that you're saying, and when you're making some sort of complaint, you got to take a step back and be like, whoa, okay, what's the problem here? What can I do to influence this situation positively? Okay, I have these people coming in here. I could follow up with them over and over and over again eventually till they sell the house. Or if I'm able to solve their problem today, they'll at least think about buying a house today. And you could influence that statistic. Maybe the clients that you're working with is not 5 to 7 years, it's maybe every 3 to 4 years. That's completely reasonable. The IRS basically says you just have to live in a property for 2 years. The IRS says you just got to live in a property for 2 years and we're not going to tax your capital gains. If you live in your principal residence for 2 years, we're not taxing your capital gains on the property. So if you're able to even just get a $10,000, $5,000, $6,000 gain on a property, you could take that completely tax-free. You could put it on your new property. You could go take a vacation with it, whatever it is that your clients are looking to do with that capital gain money. So the IRS says it just has to be 2 years. So that's really the rule on this. I mean, yeah, if people are moving less than 2 years, that's kind of maybe hurt them a little bit because the IRS is going to tax them on those capital gains. But it doesn't have to be 5 to 7 years. And you could influence that if you identify the problems it is that they have and offer a solution. So we're going to talk about offering some solutions to these problems when we get back from this next break. Don't go anywhere. You're watching State of Real Estate. When you look back on your real estate career, you'll remember the moment you decided to begin this journey. The moment when you finally decided it was time for change. The moment when you decided it was time to take charge. The moment that changed the direction of your life. forever. Now is that moment. Need help preparing for your exam? We've got you covered. Join us for a structured weekend review class where we'll cover the topics you need to know to pass your class and state exams. Class sizes are limited, so reserve your seat now by calling 813-928-0106 or registering online at tampaschoolofrealestate.com. Have you been thinking about starting a real estate career, but are struggling to find the time to go back to school? Allow us to introduce our revolutionary online course platform. At the Tampa School of Real Estate, we have used our years of education experience and student feedback to bring you the finest and best online course. Visit tampaschoolofrealestate.com, that's tampaschoolofrealestate.com, or call us at 813-928-0106, that's 813-928-0106 to learn more and register for our online course today. After the show, be sure to visit tampaschoolofrealestate.com. Again, that's tampaschoolofrealestate.com, where you'll find all the information you need to start your career in real estate. Also, be sure to check out our Success Center, where you'll find helpful tips for building a successful real estate career. Hey, if you liked the show today, be sure to hit like and subscribe and post your comments. Thanks so much for watching. Hey, welcome back to this week's episode of State of Real Estate. Every Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time, we come to you to Mastermind to help you grow your business. Today, we're talking about identifying problems and putting the pieces together. We're identifying a problem and we're putting a solution to that. When we can do that, people will pay us money. That's the essence of any business. Think of any business that makes money, they have a problem that they're solving. If it's entertainment, people are bored. They solve the problem by offering entertainment, and they're willing to pay money for that entertainment. If people don't understand how to sell a house, they're willing to pay money for a commission to help them get the house sold. So when you have a service that's worth something, people will pay something, but it's only worth something if there's a problem that you're solving. If you're not offering somebody a solution, or the solution it is that you're offering is not good enough, because it's not just that you're offering a solution. Maybe your solution is crap. They're not going to pay anything for a crappy solution, especially in a competitive market where there's better solutions out there. So what you want to be offering to your clients is the best solution possible to solving their problems, the best solution to what the problems they have. But the key thing is identifying exactly what those problems are. That's where you start off. You identify exactly the problems it is that they have, and then how you could tailor that into some sort of solution. So like I said, you're starting off figuring out what the problems are, identifying specifically, not just what the complaints are, because somebody might say, oh yeah, our house is too small. That's a complaint. That's not a problem. That's a complaint if they say their house is too small. The problem, why is it too small? Because it might not be that the square footage is too low. It could be that it's closed in. Maybe it's just the level of the ceilings. You bring ceiling levels down and a property starts to feel a little bit smaller. So you could say something along the lines of, when you're trying to identify this further, when they say, oh, you know, it's too, our current place is too small, we want something a little bit bigger. Okay, why is it too small? What do you want that would make it bigger? And that's where you get into the details more now. When they say, oh, you know, we really need an extra bathroom, we need a larger kitchen, we need more storage space. Okay. I mean, your property now, what is it? 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom? Oh, no, we've got a 4-bedroom property. Oh, do you need any additional bedrooms? No, we don't need any additional bedrooms. 4 bedrooms is plenty. We actually only use 2 of them, so we'd probably even be fine with a 3-bedroom property, but we need that whatever it is, the storage, the kitchen, the extra bathroom, all these other things. So it's important to identify the key things that are their real problems, not just what the complaint is, because the complaint is always backed by problems. You find out what the problems are, and now you can kind of get together finding some sort of solution it is that you could offer them. Now, let's flip this around, because we've been talking about the buyers a lot, but you could also have the problems with sellers. The sellers could be giving you some sort of complaint. They could, so let's say you're maybe prospecting and you're trying to go through some for sale by owners to try to convert them into listings. So you're talking to some for sale by owners, and let's say they're telling you something along the lines of, hey, I just don't want to pay a commission. Okay, well, why don't you want to pay a commission? Oh, I just don't think it's worth it. I don't think I should have to pay X amount of dollars, blah, 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 for just somebody to advertise my house. So now it sounds like they're still complaining. It may sound like they're still complaining, but they just told you why it is that they don't want to pay the money, why they don't think your solution is good enough. Before you get into offering a solution to anybody, you have to identify what the problems are. You identify the problems first, and then you could offer a solution. So the problem here, maybe you didn't even pick up on it, but the problem is that they think they're just paying for advertising, which that's a big part of it, but it's not the only reason. That's not the only reason. Okay, yeah, so yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And whenever somebody has a problem, if you want to try to convince them of your solution, you can't argue with them. No one likes to argue. There's some people that like to argue, some people that like to debate and whatnot, but when you're making a purchasing decision, you usually don't want to argue with somebody. A lot of people, they dislike that arguing so much they usually won't even make the purchase because they don't want to be in that conflicting, combative situation that involves an argument. So how do you kind of agree with them? You're like, no, I completely agree with you. I wouldn't want to pay that much money for advertising it as well. I mean, what else? What have you done so far to advertise your property? And they'll start talking about how great they are and how everything that they did, how they don't need a real estate agent to do that. And you might even find some kind of loopholes in that advertising where it's like, oh yeah, I could definitely see some things about the advertising, but now tell me, what have you done as far as the seller's disclosure? Have you gone and filled that out already? And they might say, seller's disclosure, what is that? And they don't know. It's like, oh, that's maybe now where you could kind of pitch in your solution that you have the documentation, and that's a whole nother aspect, that when you're charging a commission, it isn't just for advertising a property. That's a big part of it, and even in addition to maybe what they're doing, you could add some couple things into that for the advertising, but that's kind of how you tailor your solution there. Let's go back to our open house. We say we have sellers coming in now, not buyers, people that are thinking about maybe selling their house, which really they're a buyer as well. If they're going to sell their house, they have to buy another house. So yeah, they're actually really both in that. But the first problem that you have to solve is kind of understanding what it is that makes them want to come in here and say that they're just looking. Say, oh yeah, I just lived down the street, just figured I'd come in here and checked it out. And it's like, oh man, I might be like, okay, well, what do you think of the place? Do you like it? How does it compare to your house? And they might say, oh yeah, this is really nice. Okay, if they're saying it's nice, if they like something, now that's kind of where you start getting into the point of saying, okay, well, now is this something that you would maybe want in your house? And is this something maybe you'd be willing to move into? And no one likes to move. So again, you have to have the solutions to these problems. Maybe you have a moving company that you work with that's very reputable and very honest and very easy to work with and whatnot to make this whole process a lot smoother. Again, you're just kind of solving the problems. The more you could solve these problems, the better the solution it is that you could offer them. And the better your solution is, the more money people are willing to pay for that solution. So let's say they're coming in here looking at the property, and you have to kind of identify what those problems are. So when they say, hey, I really just don't want to sell my house right now because, I don't like, I think the market value could go up. We bought it at this time and we paid this much for it, and we have this huge mortgage payment and so on and so forth. But the key thing is you're identifying the problems. So you have to kind of open up the conversation a little bit to identify these problems and connect some sort of solution to it. Now let's talk about another problem. We're going to change gears a little bit because we've been talking about this open house. We've been talking about buyers and sellers, which is very important for the actual sales and prospecting, lead generation, and actually making deals type of environment. But now let's switch gears and let's talk about some technology problems. Some technology problems and how we could potentially solve those. So with these technology problems, maybe it's something along the lines of you have a complaint. Maybe it's yourself that has the complaint. And that's like I said, it's a big thing is identifying whenever you start complaining about something and be like, hey, why am I complaining about this? What's the problem? What is it that I'm not doing that's making me complain? Because you can't control the external environment, but you're able to control your environment. And if that means moving yourself out of that environment and you're solving the complaint in that way, so be it. If you're able to take control of your life, you're not going to complain as much because you're going to be like, oh yeah, things are good. I'm in control. I'm doing this, that, and the other. And I don't have any complaints because my problems are all being solved. But the first step is identifying what those problems are. You identify the problems, then you can apply a solution to those same problems. So let's say the technology type of thing, and let's say the complaint is that you can't compete with people that are doing the marketing, or you can't compete with companies that are doing extensive amounts of marketing and so on and so forth. So that's the complaint, that you can't compete with how much money they're spending or what it is that they're doing. But now what's the real problem behind that? Why is it that you can't compete with them? Is it because that your targeting strategy, that the way you're advertising your website, that your lead generation funnel or whatever it is that you're trying to drive traffic to, is that because you're not targeting highly effectively enough? Is it because that you have bad conversion? If you don't have a good enough website, what is the real problem? And now how can you solve that problem to fix this and be able to kind of work into getting people solving money? Another problem that I kind of mentioned and alluded to this earlier, and this is a big one that I see a lot of agents have the problem with, and this is the follow-up aspect and staying in contact with people. So it's not always the problems of your clients. You'll have problems as well, and if you're able to solve those problems, that maybe makes it where people are wanting to exchange money with you. So let's think of when somebody wants to use a real estate agent. When they're ready to sell their house or ready to buy a house, what is it that they're going to do? What the process it's going to look like when they actually start going into that? They might be thinking about it, and if they're not proactive about that themselves, they just might wait until somebody comes and prospects them and asks them, hey, have you been thinking about moving or selling your property or buying a property or something along the lines? And if they're a very kind of passive person who's not very proactive in these types of things, they might say, oh, you know what, I actually have been thinking about moving. Why don't you come in and talk to me? Or why don't you let me know when it would be a good appointment we could set, or when you could come and stop by? But that's rare that you come across that, because most people aren't going to, even if they are in that kind of less proactive type of environment, that they're going to be like, oh, you know what, we thought about moving, but we're not ready to do it yet. So now how do you solve that problem? Well, there's one way, and this is the one way that I see most people drop the ball on it, but it's a long-term strategy, but it's staying in contact with them. And you might say, oh, I don't have the time to send out emails to people every single day. I don't have time to give people calls. I don't have time to kind of check in with them. I have other things that actually go towards making money. And yes, that's great to focus on making money today, but you also have to focus on what you're doing long term to make your life easier. Because when you get stuck in this rut and you're not moving yourself and excelling yourself forward at all, that's going to be where you start to feel burnt out, because you're not propelling yourself further and further and further. So what you need to focus on is, how can you solve that problem? You might say, okay, I don't have time to do this, that, and the other. Well, a simple solution is to multiply your time. And the way you multiply time is you bring in some sort of assistant. You bring in some sort of of teammates and build a real estate team, or you bring in other people so you're able to multiply your time. You bring in another person, you're able to times 2. To bring in a third person, you're able to times 3. A fourth person, times 4. And when you're able to kind of multiply your time, not everyone might be as good as you. I mean, yeah, you might be the greatest person at whatever it is that you're doing. And, maybe these other people you bring in are just half the ability. But I bet you can't bring yourself to 150%. But bringing in that other person that's maybe even just 50% is help kind of pushing you up and getting you up into that higher level. But typically, with the right training and whatnot, you could bring these people up to 100%. And you're literally multiplying yourself and multiplying time. So that's one way to go about solving this. But now another problem, I'm just starting in real estate. I don't have any sales yet. I can't afford any sort of assistant or blah, 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 blah. So, I mean, at this point, we have two options. Number one's another simple solution. Hey, suck it up and get out there and start making some money until you can afford somebody. The second way to go about solving this, and this is another way where technology comes in to really help solve this problem for us. Now, some of these you will have to pay a fee for some of these services, but there's ways to automate this follow-up. If you're not doing any sort of email follow up and follow through with your clients. You definitely need to be doing that. You need to be following up on these clients that you've talked to, even if you talked to them a year ago. If you're staying in touch with them every single week, every single month, and they keep getting your emails and they keep seeing your information, if you're giving them good information, they're going to continue to open it, they're going to continue to look for it, and they're going to remember that you're a realtor. If you're putting in there maybe your face next to the little realtor, or if you're not a realtor, you're calling yourself a real estate agent or whatever it may be. But you need to stay in contact with these people. You need to follow up with them. Let's say you held an open house. So let's say tomorrow, Saturday, you hold an open house. How do you start following up with these people? How do you start going through and following up with them? The best way is probably even just Sunday. I know that sounds like a Sunday. They were just here. Shouldn't I wait 3 days? Isn't it the 3-day rule that I should wait to contact them? No, they probably won't even remember who you are or what they were doing 3 days ago, especially if they went to a couple open houses. 3 days later, they're going to be like, who are you? Oh, yeah, I think I remember that. No, you know what? Yeah, we didn't like anything. So you don't want to wait until Monday. You don't want to wait until Monday. Get out there on Sunday and start following up with them. Hopefully you got their contact information. If you didn't get their contact information at the open house, you're doing something wrong, because you need to be getting their contact information. And don't complain about it saying they didn't want to give you their contact information. If they don't want to give you your contact information, that you didn't give them a compelling enough reason for them to give you their contact information. And there's a lot of ways to go about that, but it simply comes down to the fact that you need to give them a compelling reason why they should give you accurate information. They don't just give you the wrong number. You should give them a reason why you should call them back, or why that you should give them the contact information so you could follow up with them. And the easy way to go about doing this is, hey, this is John Carismo. You're at my open house yesterday. I just want to first and foremost thank you guys for coming to it. But I had a question I wanted to ask you. My seller was kind of asking me some things, and I wanted to get some feedback from some of you guys that went and looked at the property. And now you're starting to kind of get it, because if they have a few minutes, and even if they don't have a few minutes, and you probably shouldn't even ask if they have a few minutes or if now's a good time, because that's a real easy way for them to say no and kind of shut you down. And really, anytime you call them, you're going to be interrupting them, and they're probably not going to want to set aside a certain time for you to call them back. And so that's maybe we're like, hey, look, I just got a couple quick questions. It'll just take about 2 minutes. I just wanted to ask you, I mean, what did you think about the property? Or maybe if you already asked that while they're there at the property, you come up with some other open-ended questions to kind of start talking to them about it. Maybe if you'd already asked them what they thought about it, and you're like, the seller is thinking about doing an update onto the kitchen, or the seller's been thinking about doing this, or the seller's been thinking about getting some new landscaping in there. If they did upgrade that, I mean, would that property have been more attractive to you? And if they say no, we don't really care about that, well, what was it that you didn't like about that particular property? And they might say, oh, well, we were just looking. We're actually not even ready to buy. It's actually a great property. I'm like, hey, look, I completely understand. But listen, between you and me, I think the property definitely needs some work, but I need some confirmation from you, from actual sellers, from actual potential buyers, to give to my seller, so they know it's not just me kind of making stuff up about how I can only look like the bad guy so much. So you guys would really be helping me out if you just tell me what, if you were actually in the buying market, what you didn't like about that property. And what you're doing here, you're kind of generating a conversation with them, but also in addition to generating this conversation, you're finding out what it is that they don't like. Because when you find out what they don't like, that's helping you understand what solution it is that you need to offer them, what that new house might possibly look like. And then once you've kind of gone through some of these things and understand what they're looking for as far as the product goes, that's where you can kind of start to move into things like that. And it's like, oh, wow, you guys seem to really have a really good idea of what you're looking for in a property. I mean, have you given it much thought of actually moving? And you can kind of generate that conversation there now. And now you're talking more about what you can do to kind of help them out once you've identified the problems. Because there's some sort of problem, especially if they have detailed answers to what it is they do and they don't like about the property. And maybe they've been thinking about buying, but they're not ready. You're going to hear that a lot, that they're not ready. But what is it that would make you ready? Why is it that you're not ready? Oh, well, we're trying to do some credit repair right now. Our credit actually isn't too good. And maybe you start having a conversation and discussion about that. And maybe you know some things about credit, but even if you do, and especially if you don't, Partner yourself up or team up with a lender or a few lenders that maybe understand this stuff a little bit better at a little bit higher level. Somebody that's maybe have a lender, because I have a couple lenders that I work with, and have a lender that maybe is somebody that's more geared toward the credit repair side of things and whatnot. Because you might have some lenders that are just so busy they don't want to waste their time with people that aren't ready for today. But you might have another lender that's like, oh, I'm willing to help people out. I'm willing to play the long game. And so that might be something that they might be interested in. Now, another thing that might be holding them up is, our house, we bought it at a really bad time, and I just don't think it's worth what we paid for it. Yeah, we kind of got to wait it out, and then that's maybe where you start kind of like, oh, really? Who did you have come out and figure out the value for the property? Oh, I'm just looking off of Zillow's estimate, trying to figure out, and it says that my home's only worth this. I was like, oh, well, let me tell you, if I had a nickel for every time Zillow was wrong with their property estimates, I wouldn't need to be practicing real estate right now. You maybe joke, laugh about it, and so on and so forth. But then you can kind of move into setting an appointment. She's like, look, I'm going to be in the neighborhood next week on Tuesday, around Tuesday evening. If you want, I could. What would be a good time for me to stop by? I could just give your property a quick look and try to figure out what that value may be for it. And what you're doing here, again, you might not actually end up with them walking away with a listing agreement. In a perfect world, yes, you're walking away with a listing agreement at that point there, but you're establishing that relationship. And you might say, John, well, isn't that a waste of my time? Aren't I wasting my time if they're not even interested in selling? I don't know. Are you wasting your time? What else would you be doing during that time? Would you be like sitting on your computer, staring at your emails, wondering why it's not filling up with leads? Would you rather be out having dinner in the evening time? Would you rather be just relaxing on the couch watching TV? I mean, I'm sure you'd like to be doing those things, but how much more would you like to have a business that produces income? So you got to weigh those odds. And yeah, I mean, you might be wasting your time. They might not be a client today, but if you do stay in contact and if you do follow up with them and you do continuously move forward with them, they're eventually going to be at the point where they're ready. And I'm guilty of this as well. I've had a lot of potential clients that I've written off before where I stopped following up and stopped contacting them. And whenever I would try to go back and contact them again, maybe 6 months down the road, they don't even know who I am. A lot happens over 6 months. And people aren't going to remember the hour or two that you spent on a couple occasions talking to them. They're eventually going to forget who you are unless you take control and you don't allow them to forget who it is that you are. Don't allow them to forget that you're a realtor. Don't allow them to forget your face. Don't allow them to forget the sound of your voice. You want to have a strategy for follow-up, whether that's through email, through text message, through phone calls, through social media. Social media is an amazing follow-up tool. And you might say, oh, well, isn't that kind of getting into their personal life and whatnot? Yeah, it is. I mean, and if you want to play the long-term strategy, that's where you kind of need to be. Because when they're finally ready to actually sell, they need to remember that you're a realtor. Otherwise, they're going to go looking for somebody else. Or even if they don't go looking for somebody else is going to go looking for them. And that person that comes in still looking, that's constantly working, that hits them when they're ready, it doesn't matter that you talked to them 6 months ago. When that person comes around and hits them when they're ready, that might be the first time they've ever met this person and talked to them, but they're in the right place at the right time, and they just adopted your client. They just stole your client from you because you neglected them and you wouldn't stay in contact with them. And we shouldn't even really be calling them your client because they're really just a prospect. But if you want them to be your client, you have to think of them as a client, meaning that you're staying in contact with them. You can't just write them off as some sort of prospect, somebody that's not going to do business with you today, so you've got better things to do. You're out there looking for the quick, easy money. Everybody wants the easy money, but anything worth waiting for, you're going to have to wait for. You're going to have to put in a little bit of work. The only way to kind of move that waiting up is to put in extra work. If you could come up with a solution that ends up solving their problems better, they might be willing to move up that deadline. We've been thinking about moving next year or something like that. If this works out for them, if they're able to sell their house and get a better house and get a good deal on that house, they're going to be ecstatic. They're going to love you for what you did. But to even have the potential, to have the opportunity to do that, you need to stay in contact with them over time. And again, you don't want to just write this off as saying, oh, they're not ready. Don't complain about it. That's just a complaint. Why are they not ready? Don't complain about it when they're like, oh, they forgot that I'm a realtor. Boo-hoo. Of course they're going to forget you're a realtor. You think that's what they're thinking about all day long when they're sitting at home? John, yeah, he's that realtor I talked to. Yeah, I got to remember him. He's a good guy. And then a week later, yeah, John, he's awesome. No, they're not thinking about you. They're thinking about what's on TV. They're thinking about their kids. They're thinking about their family. They're thinking about their friends. They're thinking about all these other things. And there's that whole concept of learning. If you don't use it, you lose it. If you want them to remember you worked so hard to get them to learn who you are. If you want them to remember that information, remember what they learned about who you are and what you do and how great the service is that you offer, you got to reinforce that. And the repetition is what reinforces it, the spaced repetition especially. And this is why I think I love the education industry so much, because it's just like the marketing industry, which I also love so much. In marketing, you're just getting people to learn who it is that you are, and you're trying to maintain what it is that you've taught them. So the two kind of go really hand in hand together, which is kind of why I get so excited about this stuff here. But that's what I've got for you guys today. I hope you've enjoyed this week's episode. Of course, if you guys do have questions, send them in to us. Even if you didn't get it in on the live stream today, if you're watching the recording of this, send it in. You can send it in to info, I-N-F-O, at Tampa, T-A-M-P-A, hyphen, the little hyphen dash sign, school.com, info at tampa-school.com. Send in your questions to us, because that gives us some fuel for the fire that we do every Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to help you mastermind and grow your business. On Wednesdays, we do Ask the Instructor. We talk about some more technical things. We did a great episode this week about understanding multifamily value and how different it is from retail value. So that's definitely something you need to check out if you're at all interested in working with more commercial properties. But other than that, make sure you tune in next week, 12 p.m. Friday, same time, same place, on Facebook, on the Success Center, on YouTube, wherever it is that you tune in, make sure you tune in on there. If you want to get updates for this, like the page, turn on the notifications, whatever. If you don't know how to do that on Facebook, just go to tampaschoolofrealestate.com, tampaschoolofrealestate.com/success. That's tampaschoolofrealestate.com/success. You'd actually go in there and subscribe to updates. So every time we do one of these videos, every time we post an article, you get that delivered to you absolutely free of charge. So do that on there, subscribe on YouTube, whatever you need to do. That way you could stay in the know, stay in the stream of all this knowledge that we give out. So I'll see you guys next week on next week's episode of State of Real Estate. I'm John Carissimo. Thanks for tuning in.